By the late 1920s, the political atmosphere in India was reaching a point of saturation. Years of rising taxes and wartime economic strain had created a widespread combustible resentment toward the colonial administration. This anger focused on the 1928 Simon Commission, tasked with reviewing India's constitutional future. Met at every station by these banners, the rejection was simple. The commission contained no Indian members. It was designed to decide their fate while denying them a voice. This exclusion radicalized the younger wing of the Indian National Congress. Led by figures like Jawaharlal Nehru, the party moved beyond requests for reform and formalized a demand for Purna Swaraj, or complete independence, at their 1929 Lahore session. However, the initial call to celebrate Independence Day on January 26, 1930, saw a disappointing turnout. The abstract political goal of full independence struggled to gain traction among a population preoccupied with the difficulties of daily survival. Mahatma Gandhi identified the need for a more concrete symbol. He sought a specific issue that would bridge the gap between high-level political demands and the lived experience of the masses. He chose salt. As a biological necessity, taxed heavily by a government monopoly, salt was a universal grievance. By targeting a law that affected every household, regardless of class or religion, Gandhi turned a kitchen staple into a strategic tool for national mobilization. When Viceroy Irwin ignored Gandhi's demands for tax reform, the protest began. This map shows the 240-mile route from Sabarmati Ashram to the coastal town of Dandi, a journey designed to build momentum over several weeks. The protest relied on physical endurance. Gandhi and 78 volunteers walked 10 miles a day for 24 days. This march acted as a rolling recruitment drive. Reaching the coast, the initial dozens were joined by thousands of supporters, gathered to hear Gandhi speak about self-rule. On April 6th, Gandhi reached the shore and ceremonially boiled seawater to produce salt. This simple act was a direct public violation of British monopoly. This marked a tactical evolution for the movement. In the early 1920s, the strategy was non-cooperation. At Dandi, it shifted into a campaign of active, performative illegality, encouraging citizens to openly break colonial laws. The defiance at Dandi triggered a national response. Thousands manufactured salt, boycotted foreign cloth, and refused taxes, creating a unified front. But beneath the surface, the participants were driven by varied and often conflicting motivations. This collapse in agricultural prices made it impossible for wealthy farming communities like the Patidars of Gujarat to pay government revenue. For them, civil disobedience was a tool to force a reduction in these crushing financial demands. Poorer peasants, however, were often small tenants. Their focus was less on government revenue and more on the immediate rent owed to landlords. As the Depression deepened, they joined the movement hoping for a total remission of their debts. In the cities, the business class funded the movement to challenge colonial trade restrictions. Industrialists like G.D. Birla saw the struggle as a path toward a market where Indian trade could flourish without British interference. Yet the industrial workers remained on the periphery. While some participated in strikes, Congress leadership hesitated to fully integrate their demands for better wages, fearing it would alienate the wealthy industrialists funding the party. The term Swaraj became a blank canvas. The movement gained massive scale because different groups projected their own economic needs onto it, but the coalition's fragility lay in these competing agendas. As the movement progressed, it encountered deeper sociological divisions that the economic promises of the Congress could not resolve. Participation from Dalit communities was limited, particularly in regions where their own organizations were strong. For many, the Congress's reluctance to challenge conservative high-caste Hindus made the national movement feel exclusionary. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar argued that the social disabilities of Dalits could only be resolved through political empowerment. He clashed with Gandhi by demanding separate electorates, believing that a reserved political voice was essential for true integration. The result was the Pune Pact of 1932. This agreement moved away from separate electorates and instead established reserved seats for the depressed classes within the general electorate, a compromise that secured political representation while keeping the voting bloc unified. Religious divides also hindered the movement. After the decline of the earlier Khilafat movement, many Muslim political organizations became lukewarm toward the Congress, fearing that their interests would be sidelined in a state dominated by a Hindu majority. These internal frictions illustrated a difficult reality. The struggle for independence was being fought by a nation that was still deeply divided by its own social and communal hierarchies. The colonial government responded to the movement with a campaign of mass arrests and physical force. Over 100,000 people were detained, and the British eventually declared the Congress itself an illegal organization. In 1931, Gandhi agreed to halt the movement to attend the Round Table Conference in London. He entered into a pact with Viceroy Irwin, trading a pause in civil disobedience for the release of political prisoners. The negotiations in London failed to produce a constitutional breakthrough. Gandhi returned to find that the British had used the lull to intensify their repression, jailing key leaders like Jawaharlal Nehru while he was away. When Gandhi attempted to relaunch the movement in 1932, it lacked its previous energy. Many groups, including the rich peasants who felt let down by the earlier halt in the campaign, refused to rejoin. By 1934, the movement had largely fizzled out. Although it ended without delivering immediate independence, the Dandi March forced the British into direct negotiations with Indian leaders for the first time. It proved that a non-violent population could successfully challenge the legitimacy of an empire, making the eventual transition to self-rule an inevitable political reality.